In this video, we're going to take a look at standard max U deflectors, as well as TP's built-in U deflector. We've got a scene with a sphere out here and a plane. We're just going to go ahead and born some particles on this sphere and have them fall down and hit this plane. We're going to go ahead and create our first rule. Inside here, we're going to use some black boxes. We'll use the generator, matter waves born, and we'll just pick the sphere, we'll born into the red group, and we'll turn on their shape information. Now, of course, they have no speed or velocity or anything. We're going to go ahead and give them a little initial velocity in the z direction. And we're also going to go ahead and add some force. We're going to go ahead and just create a quick procedural force to affect red particles. We want to use the dynamics operator force. We want it to point down, so we're going to use a 0.3 and the negative 1 in z. And we'll go ahead and connect that in our direction. And we're going to go ahead and set our force to be about, we'll try 10 and see how it looks. That's good. Now the first thing that we want to explore is using a standard max U deflector. So we'll come over to the deflectors, create a U deflector here, and we're going to go ahead and pick this plane. Now remember, whenever you use U deflectors or forces with TP, you're going to have to use the bind space warp tool to bind that to TP. And we come over to TP and you can see that binding is there. We'll call this gravity. And we're going to go ahead and make another rule now. And we'll call this rule standard collision. So this is going to be a standard max U deflector collision. We're going to want to affect the red particles. It's a dynamics operator, standard collision. And standard collision, you can see, because we use the bind space warp tool, we see this U deflector 01 listed here. We'll go ahead and activate him. Now we'll just go ahead and scrub, and we'll see that those particles are bouncing off the surface. And let's go ahead and increase our gravity actually. Any updates we make to that U deflector, so we'll go ahead and scrub out a little bit. We can see those updates in real time. We've got edit on the fly turned off on TP. We could add chaos or extra friction. Inherit velocity. Of course, the plane's not moving, so that won't really affect it. Okay, so that's standard collision. That's just the fast and easy way to bind a space warp to TP, use the standard collision operator, activate it, and then those particles will have a standard collision with that U deflector. We'll go ahead and disable that rule, and we're going to go ahead and create a new rule. This one we're going to call U deflector, and we're going to take a look at TP's built-in U deflector. We want to affect the red particles again. This is also a dynamics operator. It's the U deflector here. And we'll go ahead and make that particle connection. You see we need a node, much in the same way that the standard max U deflector picks an object in the scene. We're just going to use the node input here to do that. So pick that node, pick that plane, connect that, and then we'll see many of the same settings, but quite a few new ones. And we'll go ahead and see pretty much the same thing happen. We can do, again, same thing, modify. There's extra parameters here. We've got like surface. Surface will determine, like, as the particle comes down and hits the surface, how much of that surface it tries to follow after it hits. So if you crank that all the way up, those particles are pretty much going to just try to stick on the surface as soon as they hit. So you can see them all cruising along there. We could add, we'll go ahead and remove that. Energy dependence is going to be, it's kind of a multiplier, so particles, it depends on their speed. Particles who are moving fast are going to have this effect applied more dramatically when we increase this. It's going to accentuate the variation in what's happening. Okay, we'll go ahead and decrease that. Chaos as usual. Friction, once they hit, that'll kind of pull them in there. As well as velocity inheritance. Of course, that our deflector's not moving, so it's not going to move the particles. Nice thing about TP's U deflector, though, is the velocity inheritance is transferable from whatever node we've got picked to the particles. Apparently, the standard max U deflector does not do that. Okay, but let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other switches and things. We've got a whole collision section here. This collision section is very useful if we want to do things like born other particles whenever one of these hits that deflector. We're going to come up to our matter waves, and first we're just going to decrease the number of particles being born. We want a little more manageable level. And we're actually going to have them spread out more. Let's have them... Let's see. Okay, that's good.